At 1:23 a.m., the shutdown button is pressed, and seconds later, the reactor beneath your shift tears itself apart. Rewind 90 minutes. You're already inside Unit 4, watching gauges under harsh fluorescent lights. The turbine test should have happened earlier, but the electricity grid delayed the shutdown into your shift. By midnight, reactor power is falling, and your crew inherits a test attached to a routine shutdown. The goal is simple: see whether a coasting turbine can briefly keep essential pumps powered. At 0:28, power suddenly collapses from hundreds of megawatts thermal to roughly 30. That is far below the intended level, and routine concentration immediately turns into concern. Xenon inside the reactor absorbs neutrons, making the low power difficult to recover. To raise power again, operators withdraw more control rods while trying to hold the reactor steady. Eventually, power stabilizes near 200 megawatts thermal, well below the original test target. The test continues, but the reactor is now in a condition the crew doesn't fully understand. At 1:03, another main circulation pump is switched on, increasing water flow through the core. Minutes later, another pump joins it, forcing constant adjustments to flow, pressure, and water level. The danger isn't one huge alarm, it is dozens of ordinary readings drifting together. The reactor's operating reactivity margin is dangerously low, but there's no simple warning explaining it. Near 119, steam drum water level becomes difficult to control, so feed water flow is increased. That extra water reduces reactivity, encouraging further rod withdrawal to maintain the low power. Pressure is also falling, so valves are adjusted while the delayed test keeps moving forward. At 1:22:30, later calculations would show only about 8 rod equivalents remained inserted. Operating rules required at least 15, but the control room still doesn't look seconds from disaster. At roughly 1:23, the parameters appear steady enough, and the order comes to begin. At 1:23:04, steam to the turbine is cut and the generator starts coasting down. For roughly 30 seconds, recorded parameters remain close enough to expectations that nobody runs. As the turbine slows, several circulation pumps lose power, and coolant flow begins changing. Less flow allows more water to become steam inside channels running through the enormous core. In the RBMK design, those steam voids can increase reactivity, creating a dangerous feedback effect. Then comes the shutdown. At about 1:23:40, AZ-5 is pressed. The control rods start descending, but their graphite displacers initially increase reactivity low in the core. Within seconds, power surges as steam formation, fuel damage, and reactor physics reinforce each other. Alarms erupt, needles jump, and indicator lights multiply faster than anyone can properly interpret them. At about 1:23:43, power excursion protection signals activate, but the runaway event is already accelerating. Fuel channels rupture, pressure rises sharply, and the reactor structure begins failing around the core. Then a violent explosion shakes the building, throwing dust, equipment, and workers off balance. A second blast follows moments later, tearing Unit 4 open and scattering burning reactor material. From the control room, you can't see the core, so the first reaction is confusion. Dead instruments and impossible readings leave operators trying to cool a reactor that may no longer exist. You enter a corridor filled with broken doors, fallen material, steam, and damaged pipework. Through shattered openings, distant fires, and an eerie glow appear around the ruined reactor building. Workers check equipment and injured colleagues, while emergency calls bring firefighters toward Unit 4. Radiation is invisible, giving you no smell, heat, or instinctive warning of the exposure. Fire crews attack roof fires while plant staff keep trying to understand the reactor's condition. By early morning, Unit 4 is clearly open to the atmosphere, and radioactive debris covers the site. You step outside beneath floodlights and smoke, seeing familiar concrete transformed into twisted wreckage. Many people around you still have no idea how much radiation they have already absorbed. That night, Chernobyl stops being a failed test and becomes a catastrophe the world will never forget.